Shout out to audience member of mine, I'm Virux, who says VG is an undercover Xbox fanboy. I don't think I've said this before, but if I was an Xbox fanboy, I'd go, pretty much after the nonsense arguments of a lot of the PlayStation talking heads, and I would chart them one by one and dismantle them. I'm not, that serious about this. This is actually the casual version of our conversations. Trust me. If I was a fanboy, you would probably, weep for them because, to be very honest, I feel like a lot of these folk have done a disservice to the PlayStation community. I'm a PlayStation fan nonetheless in that regard, and I'm mostly, a PC gamer. I mean, I think majority now these days. And believe you me, if Valve had a lot of issues, I'd be talking about them, as well. In fact, Louis Rossman made this video. I thought it was a very interesting video at the end of the day, where he talks about, Steam and Valve. Where's that video over here? And it was like a 2-minute video. He's like, dude, if we had all these companies behaving themselves, we'd have literally no videos to make, and that would be a good thing. And I agree. I'd go cover, games about people beating each other. In fact, let me pause my Street Fighter, Capcom Cup right now. I like to watch fighting games and play fighting games. But again, because of the nonsense going on and because of, statements like this, it just makes me believe that, we're actually making headway and we're onto something. Audience member, Easy Evan Gamer, said, dude, Stellar Blade is owned by Sony. The IP, my guy, not a timed exclusive. The publisher made the game and Sony paid them for it. But Sony owns the IP, same as Helldivers 2. No, I have never heard this before. This is new. When Project Eve, which is what became Stellar Blade 2, was first unveiled, the very first thing that we saw was that the game was coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That's how we all knew that the game was going to be coming to other platforms in the near future. It wasn't a timed exclusive. It wasn't an exclusive to PlayStation. It was actually sponsored, and the publisher is called Nikke, I think, Nikke, a Korean developer who has Shift Up having made a lot of their games for them. And if you go back to the trailer where they actually even pointed out, it shows that it's coming to Xbox One, PS4, PS4 Pro, and Unreal Engine. And then they put Shift Up right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why this is something that somebody wants to twist the narrative for, but this is wild. They know, and y'all know, that money hiding is bad. It's bad for PlayStation fans. It's bad for the consumerism as a whole. This is anti-consumer from the gamer's perspective. It's also bad for developers, and we're seeing them. And now that we're seeing these challenges come up, with Square Enix being the case study, I think it only makes sense that we continue to put the word out there that PlayStation is pretty much taking a direction with poor management rather than putting the money in its own studios, in its own games, making more anthologies. We're hearing a lot of these complaints going on. Xbox, this person said, if Xbox wants to fund and publish and own the IP, then that's fine. I agree. They own Sunset Overdrive, just like, Insomniac owns Ratchet and Clank, who they've commissioned Insomniac for the most part to make those games for them. Now they own Insomniac, but even if they decide, like in the case of Helldivers 2, but it's not the same with Shift Up. Let's not get that misconstrued. And then he said this, Xbox would rather buy a studio than invest in the studio's partnership. This is nonsense. This is absolute crap. This is the nonsense that you guys have been talking about all this while, that, PlayStation builds these games from ground up and all that. That's absolute crap. If the game is not paid for by PlayStation, then them going ahead to block the game from going to other platforms is absolute horse manure. Just call it what it is. And then they're talking about, they bought studios and all that stuff. Honestly, man, I'm not really certain, what is going on here. This is almost like a cultic type, response. You're an undercover, Xbox fan. Address the issue at hand. These money-hatted games are a problem. Look at Sean Layden right now saying that AAA, that AA is gone, and that's a threat to the ecosystem going forward. At Gamescom Asia, the former Sony exec explained why relying on blockbusters to get us through is a death sentence. This man was the one who also said that the Achilles heel of exclusivity is that you actually, reduce your addressable market. He said this before Square Enix came out here saying, Final Fantasy Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16, fell short on our profit expectations. Why? They've reduced their addressable market for those games. So so-called timed exclusivity is harming devs, number one. Even if the devs have their culpability, it's not like PlayStation, put their hands around their neck and said, you gotta give us an exclusivity. They didn't do that, but it's still affecting them. And Shift Up is also gonna go the exact same way. I mean, look at their game called, this is Stellar Blade. This game is going to be stuck at this amount of sales until it makes its way to another platform. Why? Y'all PlayStation fans, you blast a wall of text, but many of you don't buy these games. You play freaking Call of Duty. Now, Xbox fans are also guilty of the same, but, you let them know in as many words as possible. Look at games like Space Marine. Space Marine has just clocked 4 million in sales. It's a game that's available for everyone to play. It's doing fine. It's doing well. Why? Availability. So who has benefited from Stellar Blade getting locked to PlayStation? Only PlayStation has benefited from that. This is where the anti-industry practice comes into play. It's only solely for them, for their own benefit. You, the consumer, it adds nothing to you. Why? You were already going to get the game. They already announced it. I said, you will get the game. It showed it right there. You're going to get the game. PlayStation 4, because that was a console at the time. But somehow they decided, well, maybe we need to go and pay money so that the game that you were already going to get would not go to other platforms. And somehow you think this is, undercover Xbox fanboyism? No, this is just a real life lesson as to how this practice is eventually going to torch PlayStation from within. It's a company that basically is struggling for cash. And Xbox, who has the cash, isn't even bothering doing it. They're just basically investing in their studios. If they buy a studio, if PlayStation went ahead and said, we want to acquire, Shift Up, we want to acquire Nikkei or whatever it is, okay. It's an acquisition that everybody will be like, well, you got the money. They agree that you should own them. The games and the IPs become yours. It's just like Fallout and everything now belongs to Xbox, because apparently ZeniMax, the publisher, said, sure, we will be acquired by you. Warner Brothers wanted to be acquired at one point by Xbox, but Xbox did not go for the deal, or at least that was the rumor, and then we saw in the emails through the Activision acquisition trials in the FTC, and it was actually made known that Phil Spencer was at one point interested in an acquisition of Warner Brothers. The only reason he backed away is because he was like, we're not going to own those IPs. And that's the fact, And at the end of the day, so it all comes down to all this whataboutisms that you all are playing on a video that actually is, pointing out that games are being held hostage by PlayStation. It's not good for the industry. Not like I can't access them nor play them, but for you to expect people to start buying your extra box to go play a game that was already supposed to come to them, it's just straight facetious. It just shows that, you don't really have anything to offer the market other than playing these games. And then this big wall of text continues and says the thing with, Square Enix is no one held their leg and told them to do it with Sony. I agree. Nobody held anybody's leg to do it. There are videos of me saying that Square Enix also needs to hold the bag and take the L in that one. And, all this talk about it is just like, yeah, you're preaching what we've already basically said in regard to this, system. Developers who are doing it themselves, they're putting themselves in a bind. I mean, I can understand needing money, and going with a platform or whatever it is, but don't come out here and start whining and crying that, your games are not doing well. But also, from those who are on the PlayStation side, don't come out and start whining and acting like it's actually like a benefit to the PlayStation platform that is legitimately earned. When y'all cried and whined that Xbox was wanting to be a monopoly and is buying out studios and it's a bad thing. No. Under the same comment, Amvirex, who we started out the video with their comment, pretty much said this. They said, the fact that Microsoft decided to scratch the PS5 version of Starfield when they bought Bethesda, you literally do not have the right to complain. My dude, I'm glad that they scrapped that version because they actually established that, hey man, this is now our studio. As much as I would tell you that I would have loved for the game to come, and I have videos saying actually they should bring Starfield to PlayStation when they were announcing that, when the rumors about Hi-Fi Rush were going on. Oh yes, I don't like exclusivity at the end of the day, but I realize that if it's your game and you put the money for it or you bought it, whatever you did, it's your game. You could do what you want with it. You could give it away to school kids on this, that are coming out of, college or whatever. Maybe just walk into the middle of the college campus and start handing it out. It is your choice to do what you please with the game. And that was them establishing their point. The challenge here too is, and Virus, you also said this. You said, who made the anti-consumer choice? Sony's timed exclusivity or Microsoft's full-time exclusivity? The anti-consumer choice is Sony's timed exclusivity. Very simple. Why? None of us have actually argued that Sony should bring God of War to other platforms. None of us actually argued that Sony should have brought Concord to Xbox. You know that they actually acquired the studio making that game, right? Which was supposed to be like an Overwatch competitor, right? I mean, think of, okay, use a little bit of that, use a little bit of that noggin and think about the scenario. And so when they acquired the studio in between, with them being in the middle of developing what they then called Concord, that they definitely scrapped any version or at least any notion that the game was going to be multi-plat. So we never actually complained because they bought it. It's their game. That's what I'm keeping my energy levels on. So again, we're not going to do this running around. We're simply going to just stick on what the topic at hand is. And the reason I'm actually going after this so-called money hatting with third-party games is because it's robbing PlayStation. It is the ultimate, in my opinion, cop-out for them. Instead of them investing the money into their studios, they want to push live service games with 60% of their research and development funds, while they take some of this money and then easily block games from going to Xbox so that it appears that those games belong to them, and then waste your time not giving you games that you bought the PlayStation truly for. Because you bought that PlayStation, for the most part, for PlayStation's signature games that were not available elsewhere. So them blocking these games is just pretty much helping them create this perception, and you're just timed exclusives at the end of the day, because a lot of those contracts, they do expire after a while. I mean, look at Kenna Bridge of Spirits, look at Sifu. Even sometimes the developers usually go around and say, man, we just want our IP back. Like the guys at Ilphonic with Predator Hunting Grounds. They went ahead and took the publishing rights. They requested for that so that they could publish the game on Xbox. So again, at the end of the day, you cannot support this practice nor play whataboutisms. If Xbox does it, then also they need to be held accountable for it as well. Like, no one is getting away from this conversation. So don't try to defend a bad practice because it's a platform you play on. No. When Metro Exodus was held back as an exclusive on Epic Games got the chewing out. That's how it should go. We need to ensure that these companies are not doing stupid things with these games. I mean, even Epic Games was emailing PlayStation and telling them not to bring their games to Steam. I mean, that's an anti-consumer practice. I don't care if Tim Sweeney provides a game engine that I can use for free to make my own game project. It's anti-consumer. It is what it is. There's no doubt about that. Let's just call it what it is, and let's just close the door and say, no, we're not going to deal with this. It is what it is. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for your comments. Stop saying that I'm an undercover Xbox fanboy, because if I was, that would be a nightmare for basically, I would, I have no reserve. I don't know how you would say that when this is me actually being the most cordial that I possibly can. Man, don't put me in that camp, because if I was, you would have, you wouldn't even be able to watch this channel. It would be tears. It would be tears and blood just literally flowing, because I would have no mercy. Now I actually just, take my time, and I, sometimes leave some names out. But man, if I was in that case, man, there'll be a profile on all these folk. And, to be very honest, I've realized that, for the most part, most of them are not honest with their communities. So it's too easy. It's just a lack of honesty that they have. They don't want to be transparent. They don't want anybody to try to hold them accountable. So they'll be easy pickings. So yeah, talk to me in the comment section. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.